Okay, here we go, folks. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is using Zoom to facilitate online course sessions. I'm very excited to talk to you all. Hello to everyone that's watching this recording live, as well as probably the larger group of people that'll be watching this recording afterwards. This webinar is brought to you by the VCCS ELET committee, which consists of instructional designers, instructional technologists, and other LMS administrators from across the state. So there's one representative from each college that is on that committee. And we have lots of smart people that are involved in the making of this webinar, and lots of folks in the chat that'll help answer your questions tonight. I'm the guy on the left there, Gannon Nordberg. I'm at LFCC. I'm the instructional technologist. Our lead chat facilitator is Miss Erin Mills, and on the right there, she's our instructional designer. As I said, we have a whole host of folks that are participating on the ELEC committee and other capacities that are going to be helping to answer your questions tonight in the chat. So I appreciate everyone's help with all that this evening. One reminder here, this webinar is being recorded. The recordings will land on the EdTech webpage at edtech.vccs.edu/webinars. Those recordings will be posted in about 48 hours, so please be patient as we get those processed and posted to the website. But we realize that this is potentially a popular topic that folks may want to refer back to, so we'll make sure that you can have access to that recording, and we'll share that out to local colleges as well. This is an overview of what we're going to look at tonight. We're going to start by enabling Zoom inside a Canvas course. We'll take a look at how to schedule a meeting and then set the different meeting options. And then we'll give you an opportunity to practice doing some of those things yourself in your own course. And then we'll also talk about how to connect with your students, what the different Zoom meeting controls are, how they all play with each other, and also the features like polling, how to share content, using a whiteboard, and using breakout rooms. So I'm going to start off just by doing a demo. I'm going to show you how to enable Zoom inside a Canvas course. So here I am in Canvas. I'm going to click inside one of my courses. I'm going to use a sandbox course. And for some of the activities that we have coming up later, you can use a sandbox course or you can use a live course. I'll leave that up to you. But I'm going to pick this one here as a sandbox for myself for the demo. Inside my course, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom until I see settings inside the course menu, and I'll click on that. And then across the top, I have a few different tabs. I have course detections and navigation. The one that I want is navigation, so I will click that. And then this is the place where it's going to show me all of the items in my course that are visible to students up here on top. And then this big long list down here at the bottom are all the available tools that I can optionally turn on. So I'm going to look for Zoom in that list of tools. And I'm going to click the options menu beside it, and I'm going to choose enable. So it puts it up here in the activated tools. Now, before I click away from this, I have to scroll down to the bottom and click save to preserve those changes. And now you'll see over here in the course navigation, I have Zoom enabled there. So we've already reached our first activity. You've made it this far in the webinar. So I want you to do the same thing that I just did. If you will please sign into Canvas with your VCCS username and password. From the dashboard, click on any course where you want to enable Zoom. It can be a live course or a sandbox. From the course navigation, click on settings, click on navigation along the top, and then scroll through the list of tools that are available, find Zoom, enable it, and then click save down at the bottom. I have a short URL at the bottom of this slide, the bit.ly Zoom and Canvas URL, that if you Hopefully one of our chat facilitators can put that URL in the chat. That way, if you need to reference the step-by-step process in the next couple of minutes, you can follow the steps there. But I will leave this slide up on the screen so that you can follow the steps. I'm gonna start a timer for 3 minutes and give you a chance to do that. And then we will check back in after you've had a chance to enable it inside your course. If you're watching the recording afterwards, feel free to skip ahead 3 minutes. I do want to make one note here as you're all already working. If you're having trouble exiting the full screen mode inside of Zoom, you can press the escape key on your keyboard, or you can double click on kind of the empty area on the Zoom interface. There's even an option towards the top where it says exit full screen. So you can, again, you can get out of full screen mode in Zoom by clicking on the escape key, and that will let you click away to a web browser to log into Canvas. All right, the timer's still running. I'll see you in just over 2 minutes. Okay, I stopped the timer just before the buzzer went off. So that was about 3 minutes. Hopefully you've had a chance to sign into Canvas and enable Zoom inside one of your courses. The next thing we're going to look at is how to schedule a new meeting. So what we're going to do first is now that Zoom is enabled in the course, we need to verify your Zoom account if you've never used Zoom before. And then we also may need to authorize the Zoom tool in Canvas to play nice with Canvas. What this might look like is if you click on Zoom, now that it's been enabled in your course navigation, you may see a message that looks like this where it says Zoom is requesting access to your account, and it'll probably show your name and your email address. Once you click authorize, that will kind of establish the connection between your Zoom account and let it play nice inside of Canvas. But one thing that I've noticed with some accounts, and I don't know how often this may happen, but you may also see an option when you click on Zoom that an email was sent to your VCCS Gmail account in order for you to verify your Zoom account in order to activate it. So some of the confusion with this part is employees don't use our VCCS Gmail accounts for hardly anything. And so if you're not familiar, if you log into the My VCCS portal or your college's portal with your VCCS username and password, you can look for the Gmail tool, which I've outlined here on the screenshot, and that will let you access that Gmail account. And there should be an email waiting Zoom there that you may need to authorize. Again, that's only if you don't see this option on the right here where it's asking you to authorize. So depending on the behavior inside your account and whether or not you've used Zoom before, you may see one of two things that you need to take care of. And actually, because I'm not sure what the audience and what the folks, their status is at home that are watching the recording, I'm gonna do another quick activity here. I'm gonna start a timer for 3 minutes and just give you a chance to both verify and authorize Zoom inside your Canvas course. So once again, I will leave you for about 3 minutes and I will check back in once everybody's account has been authorized and verified. Okay, I stopped the timer just 3 seconds shy of the buzzer going off. Hopefully you've had a chance to verify and authorize your account, whatever option you were presented with. We gave you a couple minutes to take care of that before we move on tonight. All right, so I'm going to do another demo now, how to schedule a new meeting once you are inside your course and you have Zoom enabled. So if I jump back over to my course, this is where we left off a few minutes ago. We have Zoom enabled in the course settings in the navigation, and now I have Zoom as a course menu item over here. If I click on that, again, this is where the first time you may be prompted to authorize or verify your account, but I've already taken care of that for mine. And now I see a button up here to schedule a new meeting. And when I click on that, I can give my new meeting a name. So I can type a name here. I'll call this one class meeting to keep it simple. I can type in a description if I want to. And then this is where I set the date and the duration for when the meeting is going to take place. So I can set this one to tomorrow at 8 p.m. Yeah, that sounds good. And it'll be an hour long. The time zone should already be set, but I could change that if I needed to. If this is a recurring meeting, maybe this is a class meeting that occurs on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I can click this checkbox here next to recurring, and then I can set the frequency based on whatever makes sense for this meeting that I'm setting up. So if this took place on Tuesday and Thursday, I could click those check boxes, and then I can even choose when I want the meeting frequency or the recurring meeting to end. If I want it to end at the end of the semester, for example, I could choose that option. And up here in bold, it's going to tell me this meeting will take place every week on Tuesday and Thursday until May 15th, and it has 18 occurrences. For my demo tonight, I'm not going to set a recurring meeting, but I wanted to show that that's what that looks like. You have an option if you want to set any kind of registration or RSVP for your meeting. You can tick that box there. I'm going to skip that because I don't think that's relevant to the meeting that I'm setting up here right now. We have some other options down below. For the video, we can choose if we want the host video, which will be you, the faculty, and the participant video, which will be the students, if we want it on or off by default. Since mostly what we're trying to do is recreate a face-to-face setting virtually, a class meeting, or at least that's kind of how I'm thinking of my example here, I'm going to leave that on for both the host and the participant so that whenever the meeting starts and someone joins, if they have a device with a webcam, it'll be turned on so that we can see each other's faces, and just helps us connect a little bit better through our devices, even though we may be miles apart. The audio options, I'm going to leave set to both. This will just allow your participants to join either through a telephone or through their computer audio. I think it's helpful to have both because we don't really know what options our students prefer or what technology they have available to them to join the session. And then down here, we have a few more options. Mostly you could probably keep them set to the default. There is an option here to mute the participants upon entry. So if you want to make the students have their microphones muted when they join, if you plan to start, doing a lecture or a demonstration or an activity of some kind, you can set that option ahead of time while you're scheduling the meeting. Or if you'd prefer to have the mics open so that everybody can speak freely as the meeting starts, you can uncheck that. Do know that you can always change that option while you're inside a meeting. So if you, as the meeting host, you can mute everyone's microphone when you're ready to actually start, again, giving a presentation or going over a topic of some kind. But so this is just the default options whenever the meeting first takes place. There's also an option here to enable a waiting room, which I think is more useful for online office hours. If you think about office hours, those are usually a single interaction between a faculty member and a student. And sometimes they're going over problems together or looking at individual assignment scores or test scores. And an online office hour environment may not be appropriate to have multiple students in the same meeting. So there's an option here to enable a waiting room, which is essentially a virtual place that can gather all the participants in one place, and then the meeting host, or you, the faculty member, can admit a single student, or any student for that matter, multiple students, manually into the meeting so that you can have a one-on-one interaction with the student, and then that student can leave and then you can admit the next person, and it's kind of just a way to keep things private in a way. If you're attending the webinar live tonight, you were actually in a waiting room before we were ready to admit everyone into the webinar. So you kind of got to see how that took place from the student's end. So for my meeting, I'm going to uncheck that. I don't think that's helpful for my class meeting, but I do want to record the meeting automatically. And when I tick that box, I have two options. I can either record the meeting on the computer that I'm using right now, or I can record it to the cloud, which will get saved to my Zoom account. And then I can get a link to my Zoom account, and I can email it to someone. I can post it in Canvas as an announcement, or as an email message. So you have some options there. One of the benefits of doing a local recording, though, is if you record it locally to your computer, it's going to save a video file, an MP4 video file, to your computer, usually in your documents folder. And if you're familiar with Canvas Studio, which is a separate webinar that we're going to cover shortly in another week or so, you can upload that video file to Canvas Studio and then actually embed it inside an item inside Canvas. And there's a neat way where you can request closed captioning on that and do some basic edits and things like that. So depending on your use case, if you want to record it, just know that you have some options there, and you can decide what makes the most sense for your particular meeting. So that being said, I'm going to click on Save. So I lock in that meeting. And I'll go back up here to the top, and we'll check what's next here. All right, so we have another activity for you. I would like you to schedule a meeting as well. So if you would, go back to Canvas, click on Zoom in the course navigation, and then click Schedule a New Meeting. And then you can fill in the details with the frequency. You can set a recurring option if that makes sense for your meeting, and then set some meeting options below based on what I showed you there. And again, I will give you 3 minutes. I'm going to start my timer, and I will follow up with you then. Just as a reminder, if you're looking to exit the full screen view of Zoom so that you can get to a web browser or get to Canvas, if you hit the escape key on your keyboard, that should take you out of the full screen mode. And there should also be an option along the top of your window where it says something to the effect of exit full screen. So I will see you in 3 minutes. All right, time is up. So I hope you had a few minutes to schedule a class meeting inside your Canvas course. And let's take a look at what's next. So now that the meeting has been scheduled inside of Canvas, the meeting is automatically added to your course calendar, and there's a link right there for both you and your students to join the session from it. So that's what's on my screenshot on the left there. It does it automatically, which is great because that's, you don't have to do anything separate to add the meeting. And then Canvas also generates a notification that may come in an email depending on each user's notification settings in Canvas that has the meeting information, when it takes place, what course it's for, and then also the join URL there that I have on the screen on the right. I don't know about you, but this just makes me so happy. Like, that's great that no one has to do anything extra. All you have to do is schedule the meeting in your Canvas course, and then magical things happen in the background. So that's great. So just to recap, when you're ready to connect with your students, you have two ways to do it. You can either click on the Zoom item inside your course, which is in my left screenshot here. And there's a place where you can see upcoming meetings, and then beside the meeting name itself, to the right, there's a button that says Start. And when you do that, it'll launch the Zoom meeting. And if you haven't used the Zoom application on your computer before, it'll automatically download it for you. And if your computer has it already, then it'll just launch the Zoom application and you'll be off to the races. Alternatively, like I said a minute ago, you can go to your Canvas calendar and you'll see your list of events there that correspond with your courses, and you can click on the link right from there. So students have two ways to connect. You have the same two ways to connect. And of course, all those notifications and everything come through in the background automatically. So we're going to do kind of a brief recap of some Zoom controls. I wanted to point everyone to the Zoom Basics webinar that we have a recording for already on the EdTech website. That's at edtech.vccs.edu/webinars. There's a little bit of overlap with what I'm about to go over and what's on that one, but that webinar is really a lot of great information about the basics of Zoom, and this one is focusing more on what it can be used, or how it can be used for instruction inside Canvas. So I wanted to plug that as we move along here. This is a list of the Zoom meeting controls. Some of these options need to be enabled in your Zoom account itself, but all the options that you see here are available on all of our pro Zoom accounts within the VCCS. So a lot of the basic ones, audio, video, participants, sharing content, chat, and then ending the meeting. Those are kind of the standard controls. And then there are some like polling, recording a meeting, doing closed captions, breakout rooms. Those are kind of advanced settings that you can enable inside your Zoom account. And I'll show you how to get to some of those controls shortly. This is just, again, a brief recap of what it looks like when you're changing your audio and your video settings. So on the left, we have the audio and the video settings themselves. And if you click on the little arrow beside either the microphone or the video piece, it'll let you choose different microphone and speakers and video that your device can detect. If you only have one device, then that makes it easy. You can just pick the one. And then of course on the right is just a preview of what it looks like when you've enabled your video with the controls down at the bottom there. The participants list. So this shows a list of who is in the meeting. You can see who has their mic and video turned on because it shows next to their name. So in my example here, everyone has their mic and video turned off. The participants can use the meeting reactions, which are kind of below the meeting participants list there. You have yes, no, go slower, go faster, and there's a few others there. So if enabled on your Zoom account, this will allow participants to provide non-verbal feedback that can be helpful if you're going over a topic and you kind of just want to do a temperature check about hey, is everybody on the same page, or does everybody have their book in front of them, turn to page, 200 or something like that. You can ask for that nonverbal feedback without anyone having to unmute their microphones or anything like that. It's just kind of a quick check to get some feedback from folks. And then below that, there's an option where it says more that you can set some meeting options inside the meeting itself. So muting the participants when they join, allow participants to unmute themselves. You can play a chime or a noise when someone joins or leaves a meeting. You can allow participants to rename themselves. You can put an attendee in a waiting room when they enter the room. And then just to the left of that more button, there's a place where you can mute everyone in the meeting at once, or you can unmute everyone in the meeting at once. So maybe you want to leave the microphones open for everyone when they first join, and then when you're ready to kind of get started, you can hit the mute button for all of them, all the participants, and that will give you a chance to kind of quiet the room, so to speak, and cut out any background noise like dogs barking or things like that happen. So this is one of the features. We're going to talk about polling. So polling is one of the things that you need to enable inside your Zoom account itself. And that's where you create the poll for the meeting ahead of time, and then you can add it to, you pull it up during the meeting. This webinar that we're doing right now is a little tricky in that I can't actually show you all the setup parts of some of these features because we're using Zoom, and it's kind of like an inception effect here where I can't show you all the Zoom features while we're doing a Zoom meeting, within Zoom. So we have some screenshots and some more information that I'm sure our folks will share in the chat. But this is kind of what it looks like. So the screenshot on top there is a place in your Zoom account that you can create a poll. And then after you add the poll, you can add questions and give it a title and choose what kind of question it's going to be, whether it's kind of just a yes, no, or a fill in the blank, or a multiple choice and things like that. Again, in your Zoom account settings, you can enable polling in general, and then the option on the right is just what the poll looks like inside of a meeting. So the question is just, are you ready to move on in the demo? Yes or no? And so the neat thing is you can get feedback during the meeting based on a topic. It's kind of like a mini quiz, so to speak, that isn't graded in any way, but it's just a way to keep people connected and do a temperature check, more or less. And this, once the polling is enabled inside a meeting, there's a button in the meeting controls to the left of the share button that I've highlighted here. That's how you get to the polls that are available for your meeting. So you pick the poll you want to launch. There's a button that you can launch the poll itself. That's when your meeting participants will see it pop up on their screen with the question or questions. They'll take the poll, and then you as the meeting host can end the poll, and then you can share the results. So if you're asking a question about something for in your course content, you can see that feedback after you end the results, end the poll, and that will let everyone see the results together. Sharing content. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of using Zoom for online instruction. A lot of us want to share content, whether it's files and documents and web pages and videos and PowerPoints and things like that. This is arguably the most important part of Zoom for doing any kind of online instruction. So when you click on the green share button at the bottom, you'll see a similar screen here, and you have some options. So it's going to let you share your entire desktop, which is that first option that I have highlighted. So that's going to see everything and share everything that's open on your computer. So any applications in Windows, you have toolbars that are on the top and the bottom of your screen. But alternatively, you will also see notifications come through. So if your computer says a virus has been detected, or you're getting a new email, or the stock exchange is up or down, or there's a breaking news of some kind, if your computer gets notifications, those will come through in your your shared session if you choose to share the entire desktop. So you may just want to take a moment before you start your meeting to disable those or mute them, or put your computer in some kind of do not disturb mode, and close out your email and things like that. You can alternatively share just a single application. So if you only want to share PowerPoint, or you only want to share Word, or a web browser like Google Chrome or something like that, you can share an individual application separately. And that way, if you do get a notification for an email that's outside of that application you're sharing, no one else in the meeting will see that. So I think that's helpful too. The second option right beside desktop is whiteboard. So there is a virtual whiteboard that's included with Zoom. It has some basic annotation tools where you can type on the whiteboard and you can use your mouse to draw on it. You can include little stamps and draw shapes and things like that. But it is dependent on your input device. So a lot of us just use a mouse or a trackpad to move the mouse around the screen, and that's what it's using for the whiteboard. So just be mindful of that. If you're trying to write equations and do some of those things, the whiteboard using your mouse, if you're anything like me, is a bit challenging to do. So either take some time to practice, or it may be worth exploring some other options, which I will share one of them shortly. That was coming up next. So the other option that you can do is share content from an iPhone or an iPad. There's a way that you can share your screen through a USB cable connected from your device to your computer, or you can also do it wirelessly through something called AirPlay. And this may be an interesting option for math or science folks that have a device that they want to show a virtual whiteboard with a stylus or with some other applications. So if I go back a screen, the third option here, the third and the fourth option in that top row is iPhone, iPad with AirPlay, and then iPhone, iPad with a cable. So this is where you would, and I think my recommendation would be to plug your phone into your computer. That way it's a more stable, reliable connection. But when you do that, you would click the share button in your Zoom meeting at the bottom like you were sharing anything else. And then you would click iPhone, iPad with cable, or AirPlay for that matter. And then you would see something like this show up on your screen where you're sharing content from your mobile device, and that's where you're navigating and tapping and scrolling and zooming and pinching and swiping and all those good things, but it's going to be shared inside your Zoom meeting. And again, if you have an iPad, or if you have even a smartphone with a screen on it, if you have a way to show a whiteboard or anything that you can draw with your finger or a stylus, you can share that inside your Zoom meeting. And again, if you're anything like me, I have a stylus and an iPad that I can draw and write a lot better with than I can my computer mouse. So this may be an interesting option that you can do that. Of course, you're probably already very familiar with the chat parts of Zoom. This will just let you chat with everyone in the room itself, or you can chat privately one-on-one with someone. There is a way to save a transcript of the chat, and you can also attach files to share inside the chat session. Breakout rooms. So this is also a really neat thing. So this creates a virtual sub-meeting inside your group, inside your meeting for group work or discussions. And this is one of those other options that has to be enabled inside your Zoom accounts in order to allow breakout rooms. And then each breakout room has the ability to share their own content, they have their own chat space, a way to share their microphone and their video, etc. And then the meeting host or the teacher can join any of the breakout rooms and then rejoin the big meeting room together. So you can kind of split everybody up into groups, and then at the specified period of time, or whenever you as the faculty member deem it so, you can bring everybody back into the main room. And there's a screenshot in the middle of the screen that's a little bit blurry. It was hard to recreate, but that's essentially what it looks like for the participants' view while you're inside a breakout room. And the part that's highlighted there, it says ask for help. So this is a place where if someone is inside a breakout room where the meeting facilitator or you, the faculty member, are not participating, they can hit that button, and then the meeting, you as the faculty member will get a notification that says, oh, breakout room number 3 needs help. And you can kind of bounce over to that room. It's a pretty great way to do kind of group discussions and things. It does take a little bit of practice to get used to it, but I would encourage you to check it out and try it. Because I think it's a nice way to, again, replicate some face-to-face activities that we're used to doing and doing it virtually. These are just some screenshots of what it can look like whenever you're starting the breakout rooms. So you create the rooms first, and then you choose from a list of participants who you want to be in each of the rooms. And you can either automatically create the breakout rooms, or you can manually assign them to different rooms. And then once the rooms have been created, you can move students between rooms, and there's some interesting controls there that let you facilitate who is a part of what room and how many there are. And you can assign different names. If you're doing like a debate or something like that, you could have the red team and the blue team and the yellow team, and you get the idea. All right, so we talked a little bit about some of the advanced Zoom features that you need to log into your Zoom account separately in order to enable. So things like polling and the breakout rooms, annotations, some of the recording options, those all have to be enabled inside your Zoom account settings. So I have a URL on the screen here. It's vccs.zoom.us. Hopefully one of our chat facilitators can put that in the chat for those that are participating live. But if you hit that URL in your web browser, it's going to ask you to sign in with your VCCS username and password. And then you'll have the ability to upload a profile picture to your Zoom account. You can see a list of your existing meetings. But then what I've highlighted here in the screenshot is there's a settings place on the left, and you have options for meeting settings and recording settings. And there are way too many meeting settings for me to go through all of them here with you tonight, but just take a look at those and see if there are any that you want to toggle on or off, because I think there are some interesting things there that we may not be taking advantage of in the beginning, but they're powerful options. So click on settings, go to meeting, and then scroll through the list there for both the meeting tab and the recording tab at the top to see what's available, and you may find some interesting things there. All right, so the last activity that we have for tonight is to just take a look at the Zoom Help Center, see what's there, and bookmark that in your web browser so that you can refer to it later. I have that website up here on the screen. It's support.zoom.us. Again, I'm sure our chat facilitators will put that into the chat for anyone that's live. So I'm going to start a timer. I'd like you to take 3 minutes to take a look at what's on there. Look at the getting started area. There's also a bunch of short 1-minute videos about how to join a meeting, schedule a meeting, share your screen, download the mobile app and things like that. So I want you to get familiar with that, because those are the resources that we're using as trainers, but also we're helping faculty and students and staff across the state with getting familiar and making the best use out of Zoom that we can. So I'm gonna start the timer, and I will catch up with you in 3 minutes. Alrighty, folks, time is up. So that was 3 minutes. Hopefully you've had a few minutes to explore what the Zoom Help Center has to offer. I know there's still lots of things that I haven't had a chance to review in there, but every time I take a look, there's something new that I want to share and something new that I picked up. We'd like to know how you thought we did with this webinar today. And if you're watching the recording, this applies to you as well. If you can take a moment and visit this URL that our chat facilitators will put in the chat for the folks that are live. It's bit.ly/elet survey. That URL is case sensitive, so be mindful of capital letters where indicated there. You can jot it down and complete it later, or if you want to take a moment to do that now, that would be great. We really appreciate your feedback so that we can continue to improve these webinars and make sure that we're providing the kind of value that the VCCS needs collectively across the state. We do have a great collection of Zoom related resources that we're going to include in the slide deck. All these resources will be published to the EdTech website so that you don't have to bookmark any of these individually. We'll make sure that these are easily discoverable so that you can check them out later. I'm sure this list will actually probably continue to grow the more we're using Zoom for online instruction. But lastly, I just want to say, on behalf of the ELEC committee, we'd like to thank you for your participation and for your willingness to watch the webinar. Please get in touch with your administrators, your LMS administrators, and the folks that manage Canvas and other educational technology tools at your institution. If you have questions and things that you want to explore, have questions on, because a lot of those folks are, well, all of those folks are extremely smart and very passionate about what we're doing to support instruction and support our students. So please take advantage of their expertise. With that being said, again, one last reminder, this is recorded, will be posted to the EdTech website at the URL that's on the screen here, and it should be up there in about 48 hours or so. I'm Gannon Nordberg once more. Aaron Mills was in the chat as our lead chat facilitator. We had lots of folks in the chat from all over the state providing their expertise tonight, and we greatly appreciate their help and involvement with this. Please be in touch and let us know what we can do to help. Have a great evening.